Hello, it's Sean again. So as I said before, I'm going to be making a video about the McGurk Organization books, which came out from 1973 to 1996. They're children's mystery books, and I have them right next to me here. So let's get started. This might take a little bit to go over each book. I'm not sure exactly how much I'm going to go over the plot of each book. I'm going to try not to give away the plots either, but I will say but let's just say that there's a spoiler warning just in case I don't actually do that and I start giving away plots. I probably will give away plots. Okay, so in the States, a few of the books were not released. Or one of them that I can remember exactly that wasn't released in the States the Menaced Midget. I had that, and I don't know what happened to it, and it's incredibly expensive now to buy it online. Another book which I don't have is the very first book. Now, the paperbacks that they released were numbered, but they're not. The numbers aren't really correct because the Menace Midget is not in that first 10 that were released in paperback, and neither was the very first book, The Nose Knows, which I had. I actually have in my personal library. I have quite a few books, which especially older children's books that I read as a kid that I thought like kids today might like to read, and I lend them to people. I lent it to someone and they did never give it back, and it's a long story, but I don't think I'm going to be getting it back. So I'll probably get that again at some point. But that basically introduces the characters. And that's when they decide to start a mystery organization. Basically, I should mention who the characters are. So it's called the McGurk Organization. Imagine McGurk being kind of like Sherlock Holmes, but more like a consulting. Well, not really Sherlock Holmes. He's not the be all and end all in intelligence. He has a bunch of his friends, and he have a mystery organization where people, usually kids, would hire them to solve mysteries. McGurk is kind of like the rambunctious redhead kid who's the most he's definitely the leader of the organization, and he's the one who has the most like mischief, not just mischievous, but he's very impulsive and very take charge, I should say, and he's the one who his take charge sometimes gets the group in trouble, but that's him. Joey Rockaway is his best friend, and he's the Watson character of the piece in the sense that the books are written in the first person with Joey being the author, the one writing it. He keeps the records. And in the first book, which I don't have to show you, but Joey and McGurk are best friends. A new boy moves into town named Willie Sandusky, and he loses a catcher's mitt, which is the plot of the first book. But he also has a very sensitive nose where he can smell things that most humans can't. He's kind of like a human bloodhound, as it were. And with Willie joining them, they decide to start to start a detective organization along with the local tomboy Wanda Craig. So that's how that starts. Now, the first book. I don't have the paperback of it, but I do have the hardcover. I'm sorry, the second book, I should say. I said The Nose Knows is the first book. I always called it the first book because it's actually considered number one of the paperback version, but still it's the second one. Deadlines from McGurk. So this is the one. This is basically the first one where the organization's really taking off, and they were advertising that kids can hire them. And I don't remember now how it starts. They have an open house. Is that it? Oh, I should mention, these books, again, they're for children, so they have wonderful illustrations. I really enjoy the illustrations, especially the earlier ones from the 70s and 80s by Lisa Wheel. Later on, they use a different illustrator, I mean to say, which actually works because the kids are aging and they do look older, but these are the ones I grew up with, and I guess, I don't know, I just like these illustrations best. And this one came out in 1974. And I should mention E.W. Hildick. So the books take place in the States, but the author is British, and he actually never even visited America when he first made the books until I think the late 80s is when he first visited. So the books kind of have a distinctive oddness about them in the sense that they're supposed to be American, but there are a few things that are not quite American. I didn't really catch it as a child, but now it's kind of I remember it. Anyway, I don't remember now how that starts. I know that they had an open house or something of that nature. Oh, they had an ad. Right. right? They placed an ad, and I don't remember exactly what the I don't remember, but I'm gonna just give a brief overview because so I don't make this too long. I'm already at 5 minutes, and I only started the first book here. But there is a local bossy girl named Sandra Ennis who wanted to join the group, but everyone knew she was bossy, and McGurk didn't really like her, and she didn't really like them either too much. He was just kind of jealous of them, so they said no. Well, the long and short of it is, they're, like I said, the McGurk group, they're like maybe 10, so is Sandra, but these two little girls who are about 6 hire McGurk and the group because their dolls were actually kidnapped. And then McGurk gets a ransom note saying that if the McGurk organization doesn't admit that they're no good, those dolls are going to be destroyed. And of course, the little girls are like hysterically crying and everything. And then McGurk's mom is just like, just say you're no good so that the dolls are returned. It doesn't, your pride doesn't matter. These little girls are really crying over their dolls. And of course, McGurk doesn't want to do that. So they eventually do figure out who took the dolls, and they pull a comeuppance on that person, and that's basically the story. I really like the story. It wasn't my absolute favorite, but they're all really good. I mean, like, even the ones I don't like are better than they're like the worst of a very good bunch, so they're still very, very good. Did one from McGurk, though, I really did like. Now, the third book, I should say, is The Case of the Condemned Cat. Now, this is another book that, where they're hired by someone, yes, right, they're hired by, a local boy who actually, who is around their age, and the local boy has a stray cat that he feeds and loves, but it's not technically his cat. But, his parents don't mind that, but his father works third shift, and the long and short of it is, there is, some prize-winning parakeets, or doves or something, that wind up getting killed. It's a neighbor of the boy who has the cat, and the cat seems to be the one who did the killing. So so when the father gets up in the afternoon, because again he works third shift, so he sleeps in the mornings, he's going to take the cat to the pound, and the cat will be destroyed. So the McGurk group only have a very finite amount of time to solve the mystery and find out, is the cat really guilty, or is he being framed? And again, I don't want to give away the baddies of the story, so I'm not gonna. I'll just tell you this though: the cat is being framed. So they do save the cat. They prove its innocence, and that's basically the story. Now, again, too, I should mention with the illustrations, the cover of these paperback books. The illustrations are vastly different than the inside. So this is Joey, the one who I said is the Watson character who writes notes. Look at the way he looks here in the covers. He looks. I mean, all of these covers are pretty much the same. I mean, they draw them very similarly. So you see the way he looks in the covers, kind of plump with afro reddish hair, and look inside the book and you'll see he looks totally different. Sorry. Okay, so this is Joey inside the book. Kind of thin, like not, well, it's a black and white illustration, but he has curly red hair in the cover and more straight brunette hair. Maybe even if it is red. They never mention it's red. Actually, in fact, it's not red, because the only one who had red hair was McGurk, with the red hair and freckles. But even so, it's straight hair that's more thin. The hair is thin, he's thinner. It's just, it's a very big gap between the way the two artists, the cover artist and the interior artist, portray Joey. All of the characters are look different, but Joey especially, Wanda to a point, because Wanda is like, her features are really exaggerated in the cover. That's the way she looks in the. That's the way she looks in the illustrations. McGurk and Willie kind of look similar, but still not quite. And the kid next to McGurk here is the kid that hires them to find the cat's innocence. So again, it's a nice story. Now, The Case of the Nervous Newsboy, I have that in the paperback and hardcover. This is a pretty good one. The newsboy is like a little bit older than them, and he's a really nice guy. And I know in the he looks like a bully here, but and this scene did happen in the book. It's not just one of those things where they draw a random scene that didn't happen. But he's not a bully. He's a very nice person. He's just nervous, as it says. But something happens basically where he runs away from home. There's a misunderstanding, and he runs away from home, and they have to find him. This is the first mystery where the police get involved. There are two policemen that become staples in the series. One is Patrolman Cassidy, and I believe that's right. And the second, yeah, let me see. Oh, actually, here's a turn right to him. Yep, Patrolman Cassidy. That's right. Okay, and here he is. Kind of like your friendly Irish policeman. This is again back in the day. This is in the late 70s. So the police, unlike today where they're portrayed as being whatever, the police are always kind of portrayed positively. Even the ones who are stern, they're not corrupt or anything like that, especially in the children's book. So Patrolman Cassidy, and then the chief is Lieutenant Caspar, if I remember correctly. And now Patrolman Cassidy's always been nice and always friendly to the kids, but the chief is kind of a little more impatient. Especially because, again, McGurk gets kind of hyper, and when he gets excited, he doesn't really make a lot of sense. And at first, especially in the first couple books, the chief, I keep calling the chief, the lieutenant, just thinks that he's wasting that his time is being wasted. But the McGurk organization always does come through, and the chief begins to eventually realize that. And even though he's still kind of gruff with them and telling them that, not to get involved, especially when they do more dangerous things, which he's right about, the kid shouldn't do that. But he still is a bit more gruff compared to Patrolman Cassidy. Now, the next book, this is the last book before the McGurk organization gains a fifth member. And speaking of which, I don't know if I mentioned the members. I did. So Joey is the one who tells the story. McGurk is the head of the organization. Willie is a little dim-witted, but he has a very good heart and also a very sensitive nose. Wanda is the tomboy. She's really good at climbing trees, and these kids are like 9 or 10, which is so this really shouldn't be a surprise because at that age, the females they could have been stronger than males, but kind of turning the trope on its head, Wanda is more of the strong one. Like, if the kids are being bullied or whatever, Wanda's the muscle. Although there's no fist fights in the book or anything like that, but she's just more of the assertive and more physical one of the bunch. Anyway, so the Great Rabbit ripoff. The long and short of it is, there is a local, this couple, this engaged couple are in their 20s. They're kind of like, I wouldn't say hippies because this is the 70s, not the 60s, but they're kind of like the artistic kind of like, bohemian people, and they make these, I'm not sure if they're clay, I don't think they're clay, but they make these, figurines of rabbits that they, how people have trolls, or what, not trolls, elves on, in their front yard. I can't think of what they're called now. But anyway, it's kind of like that, where people have rabbits in their front yard. Well, someone paints all of the rabbits, and Wanda's older brother, who's like in his late teens, he's known for causing all of that. For doing those kind of practical jokes. And Wanda and he are actually accused of doing it, so I think... So Wanda's worried that she's going to be grounded along with her brother. And the thing is, neither one of those two did do these things, but not only were the rabbits painted, but they were eventually stolen. And McGurk and the gang figure out who stole them and why. And it's not... I think I mentioned already that there's no real crimes yet in these books, so the theft is not actually a theft. There's a reason why they were taken, so there was no police involved or anything of that nature. But still, it's a good, that's another thing I like about these books, especially the early books. They're very realistic in the sense that, because, I mean, let's face it, even with the Hardy Boys and Nancy Drew, I'm going to turn this around so I can talk and look in the camera and not looking at blank things. Okay, even with the Hardy Boys and Nancy Drew, it's not realistic in the sense that, like, how many even their late teens, even adults, how many people have run into a mystery like so often as they do, and solve mysteries. I mean, the Hardy Boys and Nancy Drew travel all over the place, and a mystery comes up, and they have to solve it. That's not really realistic, of course, but it's still entertaining. Now, with the McGurk organization, I mean, it's not realistic in the sense of the things that they have done, but at least in the early books, the mysteries are not actual mysteries. They're things that really could happen to kids. So, I like that because it's not some fantasy that just that's really unrealistic. Anyway, going back to the stories now. So after that book, this next book, is that the next? I thought there was one between there. Maybe not. Okay, well, the next book is The Case of the Invisible Dog. This is one of my favorites, but this one basically, how I told you how there have been people, like kids who are jealous of the McGurk organization and they want to join. Well, there's another kid. His name is Gerald, and everyone calls him Brains Bellingham. His last name's Bellingham, but everyone calls him Brains. His name's Gerald. And he says that he invents an invisibility machine. And he makes his dog invisible. And I guess this is kind of giving away the plot, but I mean, it's really... I have to tell you this so you know about the rest of the series. So basically, it's a gimmick. He doesn't really invent the invisibility machine, but... he does it to impress the McGurk organization, and he also does know a lot about science. He really does. Now, of course, in the later books it gets more into fantasy, but at least for now, the science that he knows about, it's real science. Like, he can build, he knows how to make a radio, turn it, or make walkie-talkies, or something of the nature that are things that could really be possible and built. He doesn't really invent anything. He just knows how to make them, and how to make them out of things that are cheaper. Because, like, these are kids that are 10 years old. They can't go and buy a CB or something of that nature, but they can make it out of, like, spare parts. And anyway, the McGurk organization McGurk is so impressed by Brains that at the end he does let him join the organization. And from this book on, Brains actually, I guess at the end of this book he joins. So from the next book on, he's a part of the organization. In fact, they were having a little McGurk was having a little donut breakfast at the beginning of it, where it was just for the McGurk organization, and that's when they first see, basically, again, Brains is trying to fool them into thinking that the dog's invisible. So he bought his own donut and left it there, and then his donut was attached to a fishing line, so he's reeling it in, and it looks like there's a that the donut is a few inches off the ground and moving, so that and again to convince them that there's an invisible dog. So anyway, that's kind of getting off track, but they were having a donut, little party, little donut and tea party, and at the end of it, which was nice, they let Brains join. So there are 5 members now, and Brains is the little boy with the glasses here, and he's supposed to be a year younger than them, so he's 9 when they're 10, and he's allowed to join them. It's a nice moment. So the next book, and I'm sorry, I have the hardcover, The Invisible Dog, as well. Okay, so this is probably my second favorite of the series. The next book, let's see here, is The Secret Scribbler. Now, I realize I'm already at 18 minutes. I'm gonna probably break this up into 2 parts. But anyway, The Secret Scribbler, that's a good idea, actually. I'm gonna break it up into, like, the books I read as a child, and then the books that I read as an adult, or a teenager, because, they came out later. But anyway, The Secret Scribbler is a good one. This is their first foray into real crime. There is someone who actually goes to jail at the end of the book. So it's a real crime. It's nothing. It's not a violent crime or anything of that nature. It's but I can't give it away. I can't tell what it is without giving it away. But the McGurk organization run into they encounter a scribble that. When they get a library book out, and they analyze it and find out that it's actually the plans for an electrical circuit for an alarm system, and so they figure out that someone's actually going to be breaking into to a place that has an alarm system, and they have to figure out who and what the place is and so forth and so on. And it's a good book. Now the next one is my absolute favorite, and I have it in hardcover and in paperback. It's The Case of the Phantom Frog, and I'm sorry, I realize how awkward I'm holding these. Okay. The Case of the Phantom Frog. This is my absolute favorite McGurk book. And like I said, I read this as a child. It's it's the scariest one, I guess. Again, now, when I say scariest, it's not scary. I mean, these books are written for kids from 8 to 12. It's not really scary, but it's the scariest one of all the McGurk books. So this is the first time I think they were hired by an adult. So the long story short, an older lady who is a sculptor, she hires them and say, the thing is, she wants to hire them. I'm gonna use the hardcover because I can open that easier without it, wanting to curl back up. Let's see here. So again, the first chapter, a terrified client. She wants to hire them, and says that she wants to hire them to babysit her grandson because her grandson's living with them because her children, her child and her in-law, I forget if she has a son and a daughter-in-law or a daughter and a son-in-law, but they got in a car accident and they're in hospital recovering. And so while they're recovering, the child is going to be living with her. And of course, McGurk is kind of like, well, we're protectors, we're not babysitters, we're not going to do this. And she offers them. Well, first, I don't remember if she mentions what the real reason is first, or if she offers them the money first. But it's kind of funny how much money she offers. Okay, well, I should mention. Okay, well, first, let me tell you what happens. So, it's not just the fact of babysitting. The little boy, as soon as the little boy joined her at her house, she also hears a frog croaking, and this lady is terrified of frogs, and she doesn't want to try to find the frog because she's terrified that she will, and the frog will jump on her. So she wants the McGurk organization to find the frog, But also, like I said, McGurk was kind of balking at being hired by as a babysitter, and it's the money, I think, as the first thing that kind of convinces them. But let me see when I can find how much money it is. I have a vague idea of how much it was, but let me just. Okay, right. So she offers $2, and McGurk, $2 a night. McGurk is kind of like, I don't know. Then she offers them $2 each, so that'll come to $10 a night. And and they're all gasping, like that's huge money. Now I know that they're only 10 years old, but even so, this was written in 1979, I think. And in 1979, yes, that would be a lot of money. I mean, $2 each a night, 1979. I know that for me, I got $3 a week for allowance. So $2 a night would be great. But now, I mean, even for a 10-year-old, I don't think, if I asked them to do something, to do a chore for me, I don't think $2 would cut it. Like, as an example, if I asked, and we do, I've had, some of the local kids that will shovel my yard or mow my lawn. I think they want like $10, I mean, per kid, I mean, for the yard, not two, which is completely understandable. I mean, $2 doesn't go as far now. It's just kind of funny. But anyway, I'm sorry, I'm not talking about the book, I'm talking about money. Going back to the book, so the frog, okay, the McGurk organization, especially Brains, they have